To do the electro etching, I've spread out into my into the outhouse, which I've just realised you guys will have never seen before. I should probably do a little studio tour one of these days. So the outhouse is my other building that goes with the shed. So I've got a sink and a toilet, tea and coffee, workbench, another little workbench that I made, and for today, my electro etching setup. So, electro etching, like we said before, is also known as salt etching, and it's the process of passing an electric current through a solution that can conduct electricity. Now that solution, a solution that can conduct electricity, is called an electrolyte, which is similar to the electrolytes that you find in your body, and they're normally salts-based, like the ones in your body. The electric current can be provided by any current source, pretty much, including just a couple of D batteries. Because you want it, you only need a very low amount of power, you only need a low sort of amp and voltage, and in fact we want to keep it really low because we only need about 6 to 8 volts of power, because if you go up to 10 volts or above, you run the risk of the solution and the other things that we're going to be using forming hydrogen and oxygen. And when those two gases form, if they were to mix together, they can become explosive. And all it takes is a little spark, so like switching a socket on and off, a switch on and off, for them to catch. So very little power needed, and that's what also makes this really safe to do compared to if you're using more power. The other way to keep it really safe is to just do it in small containers. So don't make your bath, don't make the tank that you're going to be working in massive with masses and masses of solution or electrolyte in it. And just work with pieces that are sort of like an 1 to 2 inch square of metal. Because then that way you know it's going to be super safe, you're not using a huge amount of power, so therefore you're not going to be producing a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, which could cause issues, safety issues. Of course, there's always going to be times when you want to etch something bigger, like cuffs and things like that. But all that means is you just really need to look into your setup properly, look into the health and safety before proceeding with bigger projects. If we're just working small scale, so like little pieces, then it's nice and safe and fairly easy to do. Another reason why it can feel quite daunting initially, if you're anything like me, because they just talk about, electrolytes, so we've got the solution, and then anodes and cathodes and volts and amps and goodness knows what in between. And then my head just explodes. So it's probably easier to demonstrate on a battery. Now, power sources, whether they're a battery or something like this, they have a positive and a negative side. The positive is where the power flows in from, so into the the product or the thing that you want to charge from the power source, and the negative side is where that charge, that current, flows back out to create a circuit. So the power comes in from here and then flows back out from the negative. And this power source is the same. So we've got our positive side, same as this, and our negative side, same as that. So the positive is normally identified by being red, and the negative side is normally identified by being black. So even if you don't do anything much scientific or mechanical these days, you will probably remember crocodile clips like this from your school days. And I failed my GCSE physics and didn't do very well in chemistry, so we'll see how we get on here. So if you do feel daunted by this, don't worry, you're not the only one. It's just about double checking as you go along that you've got everything that you need and the right combination of stuff. But for just now, the way we get a power source to flow is in from the positive and then back out through the negative to make that circuit. To help that circuit of energy flow, and also because I don't really want to put the crocodile clips directly into the solution, we're going to use 2 bits of metal. So these bits of metal get referred to as the anode and the cathode. So that's not to do with the type of metal that they are, it's to do with the power sources that we're connecting them to. So the anode is where the power is flowing in, and the cathode is where the power is flowing out. And the metal that we are going to etch, we are going to attach to the anode. The way you can remember which is which, anode and cathode, is by using the acronym PANIC. So positive anode, negative cathode, PANC. So to create your solution or your electrolyte, there's various things that you can use, and it sort of depends partly on your preference, but also on exactly what metal it is that you're trying to etch, because different salts and minerals work with different metals. One of the things that they reckon is important is to mix your salt or your mineral with deionized water, which you can get from, car shops and places like that. The reason being is regular water, tap water, is full of different minerals of its own. So this, in theory, is purer. So it's not going to have any random minerals in there which could interact and cause issues with the process. One of the most popular minerals to use, like we said before, is salt. So salt will etch copper and copper alloys such as brass and gilding metal, but it will not etch silver, or at the very least it's not going to do a particularly good job. But some people do argue with that, so you can always have a play and experiment and see how you get on. But what is deemed to be fairly important is to use kosher salt. Now, kosher salt is something that you hear an awful lot about in America. It seems to be the main form. Whenever I hear Americans talking about salt, they always refer to kosher salt. We don't tend to hear about it as much over here in the UK, but all it basically means in terms of this process is it's salt that doesn't have added ingredients such as anti-caking agents and things like that. It needs to be a purer form of salt because those caking agents could cause issues as well. But again, some people disagree with that. Some people use salt water from the sea and get results. So another popular choice is copper sulfate. And again, copper sulfate will etch copper and brass, but not silver. It's popular because it's supposed to work a little bit quicker, give a slightly cleaner, more reliable etch when it's eating the metal away. But it's less popular because it doesn't have as long a shelf life, I should probably say, as maybe these, which can be used time and time again. And it's a little bit more expensive, and it's not quite as easy to come by. So you're probably going to have to order it in from a specialist supplier, compared to this, which came with a cheese making kit that I bought years ago and didn't use because I'm no longer allowed to eat dairy. So salt you can always get, other things you'd have to order in specially. Sodium nitrate seems like a good choice because it etches silver and copper and brass. The downside with it is it's going to get murky and need filtered quicker than things like this. So through the etching process it builds up scum, it builds up sort of leftover metal particles and things like that. Whereas with these things they'll keep working time and time again for years potentially without having to change them. This, in theory, should work for a long time, but you might need to filter it more often. So you can do that with things like a cheesecloth, passing it through a cheesecloth, or a coffee filter, just to get rid of any bits in the solution that are causing you issues or clogging it up. And again, this came from the cheese making kit. So as much as I'm missing out on the cheese, it's actually become really handy in terms of etching. Always remember as well, if you take something out of its original packaging, make sure it is well labelled. So on here I've got it in a very, very heavy duty resealable bag. I've written on there what it is, what I'm using it for, but I've also stuck on the original sticker that came on the original packet. But it's just this was much more secure than the packaging it originally came in with. And the same goes once you mix your solution up, presuming that you're planning on keeping it and using it multiple times, make sure you label it, because you don't want, you know, and make sure it's in a safe place as well. Basically, you don't want somebody coming along and potentially drinking it. Obviously, if it's something that's already got its own labels, or if it's something that's innocuous as salt, it's not as important. It's just as soon as you mix things up yourself, or if you're working with slightly more unusual or potentially harmful substances. When it comes to making your electrolyte solution, I normally work with about half a litre. So this is half a litre of deionized water in a small Tupperware. And then you decide what salt or mineral you're going to add to it. So I'm going to go for the sodium nitrate and give that a go. It's like I say, this in theory should work with both silver and copper based alloys. Now, health and safety. You want to protect your eyes, just in case. And then, depending on who you're talking to and what you read, depends on the level of health and safety that people discuss. So some people would wear a full respirator, most people would just wear a dust mask, and everybody should be wearing some sort of hand protection, so some rubber gloves. And you may be wondering why, when we're working with things like salt and water, that you have to have protection, personal protection equipment on. And it's partly because it's good practice, partly because we're going to be mixing this up really strongly, so it's going to be very, very drying for your skin, and you don't want to be breathing in sort of small dust particles of anything. And then once it's been used, it's going to have a lot of metal particles in there as well. So just depending, like I say, as ever, on the setup that you decide to go with, so whatever water or mineral or salt or acid that you decide to use, make sure that you look into it thoroughly and use whatever personal protection you feel most happy and satisfied with. Right, so for about half a litre of water, I'm going to use 100 grams of the sodium nitrate, which in this case is the entire packet. I'm going to pour it in. And what we need to happen is for it to completely dissolve. So it's for it to be a fully saturated solution, as in there's a lot of this for the amount of water being put in there, and for it to fully dissolve. So you can see at the minute there's just a layer of the salt along the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is take an old wooden spoon and I'm going to stir it a little bit. But actually what I really need to do is just give it time. In an ideal world, you would do this the day before so that it can thoroughly dissolve into that water solution. So, although it's not fully dissolved yet, as you can see, it's a fairly clear solution, sort of clear to murky white colour. But, like I say, I need to leave that till it completely dissolves. So, that's the sodium nitrate. What we're actually going to use for the first one is this. So this is sodium chloride, or the regular salt. So the regular salt and the water mixed together. And the reason it's this disgusting brown colour is with a sodium chloride solution, or salt, pure salt solution, as soon as you start using it to etch copper or a metal that has copper in it, which includes silver, the copper particles start feeding into the solution and you get this sort of murky brown colour, but it's still going to be good to use. So coming back to the power supply, when we were talking about the anodes and the cathodes, so the metal that we're going to use to help that energy flow through the electrolyte solution. Quite often when you read up on it, it says that it has to be the same metal as the metal that you're etching, and that's partly to get it to work, and it's partly so that the metals that you're using don't cause other reactions which are going to interfere or potentially be unsafe. So in theory, my anode and my cathode, if I'm etching copper, should be made from copper, but actually stainless steel seems to be a metal that you can use across the board. So no matter, whether you're etching copper or brass or silver or aluminium, you can use a steel stainless steel anode and cathode, and I found these little stick-on hooks which are made from stainless steel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sticky bit, so I've peeled the sticky back off, and I'm going to attach my metal to the sticky bit. And the important thing is that the metal will be sat in fully immersed in the solution. So I'm going to stick it near the bottom of my sticky pad. Now the other way to do this would be to have a strip of whatever metal you want to use, so the steel or another bit of copper, and tape it to the back of your work using parcel tape or something similar. Just make sure there's no plastic on there. There we go, so that's nice and stuck in position. And what I might do is stick a little bit of extra tape on the back as well. So remember from before, the metal that we want to etch has to attach to the anode, which is the positive. So I'm going to take my crocodile clip and clip it onto my piece of metal, like so, and then I should be able to pop this in here, and then my pieces of copper are fully immersed. And then on the other side I have my cathode, so my other piece of stainless steel, which again I'm going to clip. Just bent it so the stainless steel is going to be facing my piece of copper that I'm etching, like so. So now I don't need to touch the solution. I'm going to take my gloves off so that I can operate the machine a bit better. So it's all connected. I've got my anode with my piece of copper attached to it in the solution, my cathode, so the energy is going to flow in from here and then back out through there, through the electrolyte solution. So all I need to do now is turn this on. And I want it to be at about 8 volts, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. That's better. And then all I need to do is leave it for about 10 minutes. But as you can see, it's starting to bubble. Hopefully starting to work. So we'll come back to this in a moment. It's been etching for about 10 minutes now, and you can see that the solution's got even more browny black from all the copper and stainless steel particles being etched away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the machine off. Ooh, I can't do it in gloves. Turn it off, lift this out, have a little look at it. That should be fine. I'll clip it. And then I'm going to take it over, give it a little rinse in the sink. Just rinse it off. Rinsed them off, I've dried them off, so now I just need to remove the resist and see what we've got. And there we go. Ooh. And with this one, I'm just going to take my super smooth wire wool again, give it a little scrub. Again, that's come up lovely, albeit back to front in this video. Yeah, it's come up really nice. So, like I say, that was just done with normal salt, as long as it hasn't got that anticoagulant in it, some ionized water, and I used a little energy meter, but you could use a couple of D batteries. 10 minutes, super quick etching, and compared to acid, really, really safe as well.